I'll still find a way to knock you out and win this tournament. Fuck? When the dust settles, I'll be the one claiming the stream boss.
Where's where's the thing? It's oh fuck, it's shit balls. The thing. Where's the thing? Shit, where is the thing? What? Where's the thing? Oh, there's the thing.
Now you can finally see my all!
Holy fuck! Right off the bat. Right off the motherfucking bat. Donkey Punch joining the Stacker Club. Much love from Blay and myself. She insisted I say this at knife point. Holy jumping fucking shitballs. Right off rip. You get some confetti. Holy shit. I don't have anything open. Fuck. Yeah, I need this. Holy fuck. Donkey Punch Bandit claiming and Zobels, which I guess works out because there's 2 cups in the package, claiming it right off the bat. Jesus. I am literally at a loss. Oof. Jesus, guys, give it up for Donkey Punch and the musical stylings of Pink Salmon.
Your word is your honor. So drop those pills with comments. You'll be stream boss without fail. Become a legend and I'll hail the well. Stack them high, so high, so high. Hidey, 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 high. That's the way we like to roll. Hody, 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 ho. And the people all agree that it's one amazing show. Howdy, 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 ho. If you're a bum or if you're a scholar, you can take charge for $1,000. It's gonna be a great arrangement. So many hours filled with great entertainment. Stack 'em high, so high, so high. Howdy, 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 high. Toast. And the people all agree.
Oh, and we are toasting.
That it's one amazing show.
Howdy, 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 ho.
It's the best deal you'll get all year, so tune in today while I give the like a go. Don't chase wild dreams with prove elusive. Drop a stack today and be exclusive. Stack 'em high, so high, so high, so high.
Howdy, 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 howdy.
That's the way we like to roll.
Howdy, 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 howdy.
Squilly boo, squilly boo, squilly billy billy boo. So dilly 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 skilly boy. Don't be dumb and don't be a boo. Turn on Twitch, also on YouTube. You'll be with friends and good company. I'll stack a legend is the thing to be. Stack 'em high, so high, so high. And that's the way we like to roll. And the people all agree that it's one amazing show. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Wow. God damn. Was that the new Pinky song you were saving? Yeah, that was the new Pinky song. And fucking hell, Donkey Punch to you, sir. May your string boss reign be long and fruit-filled, and may you get knocked off quickly. Coming in at 4.8 million HP. 4.8 million HP. This sip of Elmer T. Lee goes to you, sir. Hit me up with the address. I will have this package out to you. Toot sweet, good sir. I will have it out toot sweet. God bless. Why is this one highlighted? Why? God damn. Thank you so much, Donkey. Much appreciated, guys. Give it up for Donkey Punch and Zobles in the chat. Incredibly generous. Thank you so much. Welcome to the club. Final package going out to you, sir. Final package going out right to you. Thank you. Thank you. That is some insane HP. Let us know where she's going to dump your body. Oh, shit, man. Right off the bat. But can't forget about this.
The first worm of the summer!
From Fostonia. Here's Shiru Gospel's Wormy Slurpee. Love you, sin no homo. I'll go. Why not? Man, this. If anyone has not had the chance to try Elmer T. Lee, good Lord, this is probably my favorite bourbon. It gives me goosebumps. It's so good. There's a reason why this is consigned to Kama or McKinley Juice only. Because first off, it's very expensive. I got very lucky to get this one. And second off, it is a one-of-a-kind bottle. Restaurants aren't saying I ain't paying $100 for a 1 ounce pour of Elmer. No, I don't know, man. It's pretty good. What's it called? Elmer T. Lee. This is my last little sip of it. This is going to be a goddamn good show, isn't it? Hello, chat. Welcome to another Tucker Tuesday. How we doing out there? Oh, boy. My day has just improved multifold. Except for one little thing. And I didn't even notice it this time. Miss Sin noticed that somebody else hit my truck. Or maybe we just noticed it. But my side, the body, the bed, the side of the bed on, I think it's the passenger side, has a huge fucking dent in it. Is there some just person waiting outside of one of the giant eagles just hitting my car? I can almost guarantee you at this point it's people just launching their shopping carts when they're done. What the fuck is, I don't know how new it is, but I just noticed. Like, I know the back of it, the what's it called, the thing, the license plate thing is new, but I don't know how old this one is. But we just noticed it. It's annoying. Like, I don't care. I'm not gonna fix it. I'm not gonna pay to fix it. It's a dent in the rear side of the bed. Here's a poor man's comma. 1,000 pennies. Congrats, Donkey and Zobles. That said, chat, 50% does not math. The ratio is garbage. Fuckers, make it better. You heard the man. You heard the man. Thank you so much, Alamo. But it's like, I'm not going to pay to fix it. That's going to cost hundreds of dollars, and it's just not worth it to me. But it's still like, just leave an I'm sorry note or something. One of those magic paint pens for the scratch. No scratches. It's just a giant dent. I wonder, I'll take a picture of it for Friday. So now it's somebody's job to remind me. But I'll take a picture of it for Friday and the thing. You got a plunger? Yes. I guess that would work. That could work. It's just annoying. And what's more annoying is I don't know how old it is because I just noticed it. It does sound like someone's trying to send a message, often as it seems. Again, I don't know how old this is. We just noticed it. So this could be from like last year, but I just now noticed it. I was walking out of the store, and if you look straight on, you can't see it, but you have to catch it at an angle. And I just saw the shadow of the other side of the dent. I'm like, is that a big fucking dent? And it's like, it's a shallow, long dent. It looks like someone just fucking like rammed a shopping cart into it. Send grease the chair. I don't know where my WD-40 is. Anyway, guys, thank you for coming and hanging out. We will get to the tuck after that ratio gets fixed up a little bit. We have 140 people watching and 80 likes. Come on, man. Come on, man. You can do better than that, guys. Smash that like button. Share it out on your social media. We don't have any more comma packages left. The last one has just been spoken for. So if you want a package, you're going to have to take the McKinley package, and I got to tell you, that is a dope package in its own right. It's got some dope swag with it. And Baba Yaga, I don't know if you're here, but you can donate a package in somebody's name. And if anyone wants to get Baba Yaga a package, she gets a lighter from the Stacker Club. But I do have one new donation I would like to put out there for you guys. It is at $90, so it's a little bit steep. It's a little bit steep. But I basically doubled up on the John Wick. I basically doubled up on the John Wick. So if you want double John Wick dopeness, it's sitting at 90. I do get a lot of use of those magnets. The magnets are great. The coasters are great. It's a bunch of fucking stickers, too. The McKinley package is dope as shit. There's a reason there's only 3 left, because I kept all the stuff from one of them for myself. All right, let's get to. When did the other packages get spoken for? Well, there was only 1 Stacker package left, but there's 3 McKinley left.
I know there were drag queen story hours going on at military bases, but maybe more significantly, he's also not sure where all the weapons that we're sending to Ukraine have wound up. So yesterday, Joe Manchin, Democrat.
We just don't know where the Ukrainian weapons went. I don't know who's looking for them. It's okay.
From West Virginia.
Whatever they get for selling them, we get 10% back, so it's fine.
Asked Milley if he could speak to his, quote, confidence in the U.S. NATO Ukrainian weapons accountability. Here was his response.
We do not have any uniformed troops or civilians, for that matter.
You got the last comma stickers. There's still McKinley stickers.
Accompanying Ukrainian forces in the front line. We do have folks working out of the embassy, so they're working at the Ministry of Defense level. And that's as far as our hands-on accountability goes. We do have some other means through reporting that the Ukrainians report to us, and I'll be happy to talk about that in a classified session. But there are some means and mechanisms of doing some accountability. It is not as rigorous as you might think.
Well, we're not doing it as rigorous as you might think. So, translation, we're not doing it at all, because I expect the military to be loosely rigorous when seeing how it goes. You're gonna how to send me pictures of the stuff. I'm gonna how to what?
Yeah, not as rigorous. J.D. Vance has served in the United States Marine Corps. Now he serves in the United States Senate, representing the state of Ohio. He joins us tonight. Senator, thank you so much for coming. So when you hear the chairman of the Joint Chiefs say, we're not exactly sure where the advanced weapon systems are going.
Yeah, we're just dropping off these billions of dollars of weapon systems right in their front yard, and I don't know where it went. I don't know. You look over there.
How do you feel about that?
Well, Tucker, it's outrageous, but unfortunately it confirms what we basically already know, which is that we've sent $113 billion, probably more than that, Tucker, probably more like $130 billion to the most corrupt country on the face of the planet, and we have no real idea how those resources have been spent. The most important part of this, Tucker, and
So, yeah, I'm very curious. Where is the hundreds of billions of cash that we send them going? Does anybody know? Oh, look at that. JK, bang. Warlord, bang. TC, bang. All tweeted it out. Thank you, guys.
I've done a very deep dive into this, is we do not make enough bullets in this country to support multiple fronts of multiple wars. When I'm talking about bullets, I mean ammunition, munitions, artillery shells, some of the advanced missile systems. So when we talk about sending $120 billion worth of weapons to Ukraine, those are weapons that we could not send to Taiwan or other parts of the world that would actually be in the service of American national interest. This entire idea that we can focus on Russia and we can focus on China is a farce. These guys shipped our entire...
Yes, Zenny Biscuit with the always reliable, did you check your butthole? Skid out, butthole.
Industrial base to China in the first place. We don't make enough of our own weapons. And the fact that we're sending it to Ukraine with so little accountability is the very reason why China's threat and power is growing in the world today.
Yeah, and we're about to lose the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency and tank our economy. I agree with that. I wonder, has there been a concerted effort from the Congress to find out who's gotten rich from this? Many people have, clearly. Do we know who they are?
We don't know who they are, Tucker, in part because the Biden administration won't give us
Zobles, I'm doing the thing where I touch the side of my nose and I point at you.
answers. I actually submitted a letter. One of the first things that I did as a U.S. Senator is asked for a full accounting of where the resources that we've sent to Ukraine have gone.
And he was very vocal about this. Why do you think that they were so against him being a senator? It's very curious.
Biden administration has been very resistant, even in classified settings, to be honest with us. And Tucker, I have to be honest with you. I'm not sure if it's because they have no idea where those $120 billion have gone, or if they just don't want to tell us. But what we can be almost certain is that some very dark, very evil people have gotten very wealthy from that $120 billion. I hope that it's done some good too, but the simple fact is we don't know, and there has not been a full accounting of this stuff.
And they have blocked audits on it multiple times.
Well, the recklessness is just awe-inspiring. I mean, it's just drunk driving the whole country. I mean, it's unbelievable. Senator Vance of Ohio, I appreciate your coming on tonight. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. Happy Monday. So here's a story from over the weekend. At about 5 a.m. on Saturday morning in Manhattan, a parking garage attendant called Musa Diarra noticed a man peering into parked cars looking for things to steal. Now that's a familiar...
Did we have this segment?
...you're seen in New York City. Alvin Bragg, who is the local Soros-funded DA, has decided that prosecuting car burglaries is a form of white supremacy. As a result, not surprisingly, car burglaries have risen quite a bit.
We did? Okay, I thought so.
10% of Americans have depression. They tell you it's all chemical imbalance in the brain. That's a lie. Some of it may
Sorry about that.
be. But depression is also a product of living a life you're not supposed to be living. And if your mercenary wife and all the political consultants around you tell you have to be in the U.S. Senate and you don't want to be in the U.S. Senate, you're not ready to serve in the U.S. Senate, maybe it gives you...
Steve Dave. What the fresh hell is this? That's it. You're corrupt as the U.S. government. If you aren't smashing the like button, do you ladies really want to be as dumb as Kamala? Oh, hey, that's a good thing. It's too late for that now. Do you really want to be as brain dead as Biden? Damn it. Okay, I'm changing it. Then smash the like button, dipshits. I agree. Thank you, Steve Dave. Much appreciated. Do, in fact, smash the like button. Do, in fact, share it out on social media. And maybe hit up the Streamlabs.
Depression, that's not crazy, actually, as an explanation. Those people should have to answer for it, who did this to him. So it's kind of interesting that you're not hearing our leaders talk that much about black people anymore. Remember all the neoliberals were obsessed telling you about black people. Why aren't they talking about black people anymore? 3 years after George Floyd, actually the lives of many African Americans, real people, have gotten a lot worse. Following the 2020 Floyd riots, African American deaths by homicide reached levels never seen before in this country.
Man, I wonder why that could be.
Someone should stop and ask, why is that? But no one in the Democratic Party is, because they don't care. They don't have to care, because they have a new class of victims to exploit for political power. Out with black people, in with transgenderists.
Oh, yes. No, yes, this is it. It's the new thing. It's the new fad. It's the new gimmick. While actual transgender people have a hard time living their lives going day to day, Dylan Mulvaney gets to cash in on their hard work.
We're going to exploit their suffering to become more powerful. And of course, big corporations are taking the lead, as they always do. Bud Light just honored a man who dresses up like a little girl called Dylan Mulvaney. Watch this.
And don't get it wrong, that is the exact way to put it. Dylan Mulvaney is a grown adult who pretends to be a little girl.
I got some Bud Lights for us. So, I kept hearing about this thing called March Madness, and I thought we were all just having a hectic month, but it turns out it has something to do with sports. And I'm not sure exactly which sport, but either way, it's a cause to celebrate. This month, I celebrated my day 365 of womanhood, and Bud...
And do you notice that in this advertisement, we'll get more into this on Friday, it's womanhood. Every other time, it's day 36 something of being a girl. Here it's womanhood. Every other one is being a girl.
Light sent me possibly the best gift ever, a can with my face on it.
So do you think that the people in charge care about that person or any transgender person? Really, if they did, they might ask questions like, is the suicide rate among young people who are getting hormone treatments rising or falling? Because if you cared, you'd want to know that. They don't want to know. They don't care. You think Sandy Cortez even thinks about that? No. The point is getting power from the suffering of others. And if you've decided you're another sex, you're definitely suffering on many, many levels. But point that out and you get attacked. That happened to our friend Billboard Chris in Canada. He went to a trans rally in Vancouver on Friday. Here's what happened to him while there.
You suck. You suck. You. You. You're not wanted. You. You're an idiot. You.
These are very reasonable people. I don't know why anybody's upset by this.
You.
I feel like, again, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the $90. If you haven't seen it, yeah, well, nobody's seen it yet, but it's good. And it gives you an idea of the proper way to handle these activists. Whoa. What happened there? What? Hold on. Are they yelling "fuck Jews"? No, I think they're yelling "fuck you." They're yelling "kill him." They're yelling "kill him."
So,
okay, sound. Hello? Why is no sound? No, skip. Why is no sound? Why is no sound? Edit. Sound at 80%. All right, let's just try and re-upload it. Why is no sound? Yes, I know. You're working. Is there sound here? No? Okay. This is going to take some investigating. Is there sound here? Yes? Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry.
Who's the aggressor there? Well, it wasn't the man who calls himself Billboard Chris. He was assaulted. And when he reported his assault to the, air quotes here, police, the police refused to investigate.
Within seconds, I was surrounded.
Okay, there we go. There's sound. 1 second.
Not allowed to walk freely.
I think you did break the slabs. Jesus. I think you broke it the slabs. Save. Save. Dashboard. Yeah. Heard that you got heard that you got certifiably porked on Wednesday with the Science Museum pricing of parking. Dude, it was... I hope this helps. Also, update the 7777, you lazy Italian alcoholic. Handsome man, you. Is it not updated? Did I really not do that? I mean, it's completely possible. I am big stupid, but... Oh, shit. Okay, and this one. It's just gonna be a big wick. No. Big wick. There we go. Thank you so much, Jay. Much appreciated, guys. Give it up in the chat for Jay for the big fucking 90 and the big John Wick. That's such a good one. It's very delicious, isn't it? It's very delicious. Perfect donuts and chef's kiss. Thank you. That is a good one.
Pushed, as you can see.
And again, thank Donkey for breaking slabs.
My nose is bleeding.
They just walked up to him and assaulted him.
You want to see? I don't... Where's the video?
I have it on my camera, but I'm filming right now. Yeah, I can show it to you.
How about you show it to me?
Are you going to do something about it if I do?
Oh, there we go. Joshua Montgomery changing that name. That's perfect. Big wick energy.
I actually see an assault and not a claim of an assault.
For your nose? No, how do you think that happened, ma'am? You think he did it to himself or something?
People can do these things to hurt themselves on
Jesus.
purpose.
You don't honestly think that
police officer here thinking I scratched myself on purpose. This is hilarious.
Oh, the rosy...
Yep, that's it. Big wick energy. And they never intended on arresting any of those people. You know they didn't.
Cheeked face of tyranny. She could be working in the Citibank HR department. Maybe she will be someday. And she's not the only one. The police chief, the deputy police chief rather, Howard Chow of Vancouver, has taken her side. He says he's appalled, not that people are being bashed in the face for their political views, but because some people don't like the fact the police didn't respond. He hasn't.
So people are upset that the police didn't respond to something that the police absolutely should have responded to. And now it's the people's fault? It make no sense.
Condemned the militants who attacked that man. That's because in Canada, as in this country, militants with the right cause, the trans cause, can do whatever they want. They can even kill Christian children in school, and they're the victims. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube.
Jay, I hope you like that donation, man.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Donald Trump.
It seems logical. None of this shit seems logical. And, you know, honestly, this is going to hurt the trans acceptance movement more than anything else, honestly.
As you no doubt know, was arraigned in a Manhattan court today. The former president is back in Florida at this hour and scheduled to speak in just a moment from Mar-a-Lago. This feels significant, so we're going to take his remarks live as soon as they begin. But before we get there, it's worth understanding what it is we've just seen. Often the clearest perspectives on our country come from outside its borders. With distance comes...
It was worth every penny, glad to help. Oh, it was a good one, wasn't it?
Clarity. So with that in mind, here is Salvadoran...
Now we have the Witcher, we have Awoo and the Big Awoo. Witcher and the Big Witcher. we have John Wick and Big Wick Energy.
President Nayib Bukele on Twitter today, quote, "Think what you want about former President Trump and the reasons he's being indicted," Bukele wrote, "but just imagine if this happened in any other country where a government arrested the main opposition candidate. The United States' ability to use, quote, democracy as foreign policy is gone." Thousands of miles from New York City, in the heart of Central America, it is very obvious what just happened at that Manhattan courthouse. It's obvious to many Democrats, too. Trump was criminally charged because he is planning to challenge Joe Biden in the upcoming presidential election. It's really that.
That is the only reason they're doing it, too. I know that, you know that. It's to try to prevent Trump from running.
Simple. If Donald Trump had retired in 2020, would he have been arraigned today? Of course not. Top Democrats know that. Some effectively admit it. The liberal blog Politico this morning ran a piece describing what it called President Joe Biden's most senior advisors, predicting that Trump will be the Republican nominee, and because he has now been charged with crimes, he will lose the general election. Thanks to this criminal case, the Biden White House believes that swing voters, the critical voters in a presidential election, are, quote,
Democrats are desperate. They are. Democrats are not only desperate, but they are willing to do anything to prevent him from running again. Whether that's charge him with a crime that he most likely did not commit, whether that's have him... They are willing to do anything just to get him.
Now permanently out of Trump's reach. And just to make certain that swing voters never fall within Trump's reach, Donald Trump is scheduled to be back in court in New York with the accompanying media circus just weeks before the first Republican primary.
I was on Reddit earlier, and I don't browse subreddits too often. I'm part of like 3, I think, or at least I get notifications for 3. It's like our pics, our shrimp, and our figure arts. So I'm looking through the pics one, and one of the top voted ones for the day was a photo of Donald Trump, a Lego little Donald Trump in handcuffs. And I was just like, oh my God, can we not?
This is the boldest election interference ever attempted in this country's history. And if you doubt that, if you think it's maybe on the level, then we suggest you look carefully at the indictment that was unveiled today. Donald Trump, as you probably heard, has been charged with 34 separate crimes. Those crimes turn out on close examination to be the same crime repeated 34 times. And that crime is, quote, falsifying business records in the first degree. So the Manhattan DA alleges that Donald Trump...
And I'm sure no other major corporation or anything has done that ever. You know, I'm sure that has not happened. That's not a thing. Only Trump does that.
Send his own money to various people for various entirely legal reasons, but didn't account for it correctly in his office records. That's what he's accused of. And even if what Alvin Bragg has said Trump did, he actually did do, Trump could not be charged with that because the statute of limitations has expired.
Well, they're going to figure out how to do it anyway. They're going to make it a murder felony or something like that.
So the question is, how did Alvin Bragg drag Donald Trump into court today? Well, he did it by claiming that Trump falsified business records as a means of violating some other, much more serious law. That's what he's saying. Here's Alvin Bragg today.
Are the falsified records in the room with us? See, Ham and Beans, there's Baba Yaga. She showed up.
Under New York state law, it is a felony to falsify business records with intent to defraud and an intent to conceal another crime. That is exactly what this case is about. 34 false statements made to cover up other crimes. These are felony crimes in New York State, no matter who you are. We cannot and will not normalize serious criminal conduct. The defendant...
How is falsifying a charge not criminal, though? I do not understand.
Repeatedly made false statements on New York business records. He also caused others to make false statements.
So here's what Bragg just said, in case you weren't paying attention to the lecture. Donald Trump has committed a crime not by changing business records, but by changing business records in order to conceal another more serious crime or to defraud somebody. So let's take this in order. What is the more serious crime? Well, we have no idea because Bragg hasn't told us.
We'll figure it out, and then we'll let you know.
No such more serious crime is listed in the indictment. And critically, and this really is the point, Donald Trump has not been charged with another more serious crime. So what we have as of tonight is an indictment that does not allege specific violations of the law.
Yeah.
That's, of course, unconstitutional, but it's also farcical.
Farcical, that's putting it nicely.
What about the fraud claim you just heard Bragg make on television? Well, Bragg claims that Trump sent money to Stormy Daniels in order to influence the outcome of the 2016 election, and in so doing, he tried to, quote, defraud voters. Well, that turns out to be an actual crime that's on the books. Bragg is claiming that Donald Trump committed a campaign finance violation.
And how exactly does sending Stormy Daniels money changed voters' minds?
Which is a federal crime, by the way. The problem is he did not commit a campaign finance violation. Nobody is claiming that he did, including the Federal Election Commission, which has investigated this question. So as a legal matter, the case brought today, the 34 felonies, make no sense at all. It's ridiculous. But as a political tactic, which is precisely what it is likely to be effective. And that's why the media so fervently supports it. Watch.
A kind of an alliance, but
I love these little I love these little compilations of the media just saying the same thing over and over and over.
Between different groups that have a history of being dispossessed and discriminated against, whether they are Jews or Black Americans or LGBT folks, that might come together to push back against the white Christian nationalist.
What does white Christian... Oh, they're saying it's an attack on Bragg and Soros. Got it. Okay, that makes no sense.
On American democracy.
Well, you don't know what part this man might play in the future of our democracy.
This campaign of disinformation that's continuously undermining our democracy.
One day people will look back and
are
say
not
how we've
a democracy.
handled this issue of Trump, how it affects our democracy. Really could be a major event, could be a big turning point, one way or the other.
The federal prosecutors have said this is a crime that imperils our democracy.
We're still not a democracy.
So it imperils our democracy, and because we care so deeply about democracy, we're going to prevent the leading candidate in the other party from running for president, not let
it's crazy. We're just not a democracy.
Voters vote for him. Notice there was not one word about any crime here, meaning a violation of...
Baba Yaga says, keep my name out your mouth, leave Jews alone. Didn't you know that George Soros literally represents all Jewish people? You bigot.
Of statute. So what is this really about? Well, you may have heard MSNBC guest Peter Beinart describe today's circus in Manhattan as part of a larger offensive by a coalition of the aggrieved, and we're quoting, to push back against the white Christian nationalist assault on American democracy.
Could you imagine if that was put in any other context? We have to push back on the black Muslim assault on America's democracy. We have to push back on the Israeli Jewish assault on America's democracy. That would be front page news everywhere. They'd be decried, probably investigated by the FBI or the CIA. But white Christians, yeah, it's good. That's the only group you're allowed to shit on.
Now, in case you're waiting to hear the real motive here, wait no longer. There it is. Let that sink in. Does that sound like justice to you? Or does that sound like tribal justice? Well, that's, of course, exactly what it is. Now, we're waiting, as we told you at the top, for Donald Trump to speak about all of this from Palm Beach, Florida. But in the meantime, there is a legal process underway, of course. We'd like to get the latest on it. Alina Habba is an attorney who represents Donald Trump. Harmeet Dillon is obviously a famous civil rights attorney. She's highly familiar with this case. And we have to ask, Why did a judge allow cameras into the court to take pictures of Trump? Normally you see sketches. That seemed like part of a strategy, a political strategy, not a legal one. Harmeet Dillon, thank you for coming on. What did you make of that?
Well, I agree with you, Tucker. I mean, if the Democratic Party is using this prosecution, which I believe they are, to influence the outcome of the next election, this photograph is going to be a prop in those campaign ads. And it all seems to be, you know, really well targeted towards that. I would even say that the judge not putting a gag order on both sides in this case is the same, because by scolding the defendant and saying, you better stay away from an imaginary line that I'm not going to draw for you, he's effectively...
They're telling him don't do that, but not telling him what that is, just so they could try to get him on something.
Chilling his speech, while at the same time not putting any constraints whatsoever on the district attorney, who could go out and, in fact, completely ignore his oath to do justice and prejudge that the defendant is already guilty. He said that multiple times in his remarks, while winking and at the same time admitting that he didn't even have to articulate what the charges are. So this entire proceeding seems to be clearly rigged in a political manner. And somewhere along the way, Tucker, Americans may have not noticed that the Democratic Party has basically turned into a gang of thugs. There is no concept of due process. There is no concept of even, with a straight face, attempting to tie the charges to something that you can prove in front of a court of law that could stand up on appeal. And so if there were ever any more...
They're not interested in doing this in a court. They just want to hamper and make it such bad PR that him running would mean nothing.
Evidence than we already suspected. I think the way that today's proceedings went really underscores the political nature of this. And if I were to make a comment about the president's remarks today, I would say that what was missing from that is pointing out that this indictment is really aimed at the American people. It's aimed at President Trump supporters. It's aimed at terrorizing people away from supporting a particular candidate. And it is meant to remind all of us that if they can do this to a former president, they can concoct false charges without even articulating what the charges are against any American for political reasons. And that is a form of emotional terrorism, Tucker. It should really be terrifying to all Americans that this is the current state of the law.
It should. Because justice is supposed to be blind. It's not supposed to be in one direction, a lot harder than any other one. Justice is supposed to be equally spread out. It's just not.
In New York City.
He should say that in every public appearance going forward. I agree with that. Harmeet Dillon, thank you so much. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel. Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. There is much fallout this evening, and there will be for months, stemming from the arraignment of the Republican frontrunner in Manhattan yesterday. And we're going to cover that in some detail. But we want to start tonight with a trend that we have noticed that might be worth knowing about, and it has to do with the dollar. For nearly 80 years since the end of the Second World War, the U.S. dollar has effectively been the currency of the world. For our entire lifetimes, there was virtually no place on the entire globe you could go that would turn down a 20. Andrew Jackson's face beside the famous seal of the U.S. Treasury was probably America's best-known export. From Doris.
And most importantly, I would not turn down a 20 to the Streamlabs listed down below, nor a like or a share. That's always appreciated. That ratio is not looking too great. So if you guys want to take care of any of that, the smashing of the like, the sharing, and the slabbity doos, it's all greatly appreciated.
Salam to Sri Lanka, to the smallest gold mining outpost in the Amazon basin. Every shopkeeper on earth recognized a $20 bill. The dollar was universal, and not just universal in commerce, though the majority of international transactions were conducted in dollars, but universally held as a long-term store of value globally. The world's central banks stockpiled U.S. dollars, far more than any other currency. Now, most Americans may not have known that, or they did, but it doesn't matter whether they knew it. It was very good for everyone who lives here. Because there were so many U.S. dollars in circulation outside of the country, the cost of borrowing money inside the country remained artificially low. And that's one of the reasons that in this country, America, middle-class people could buy their own homes. The U.S. government, meanwhile, was able to run up astronomical debts without many.
And it's weird how we never benefited from any of this.
Obvious consequences. Now, from time to time, the Congress would debate something called the debt ceiling, but it was abstract. For most people, the entire topic didn't seem very relevant to their lives because for most of that time, it really wasn't. America printed the US dollar, we controlled the global reserve currency, and that meant that for us, money was cheap. We had privileges that nobody else in the world had. It's been very nice, but what would happen if it ended? You don't even really want to think about that because the consequences would be too ugly, really ugly. But we started to worry about it about a year ago, really the day the Russian military rolled over the Ukrainian border. Now, by itself, that was a destabilizing event. War always is destabilizing and always challenging.
But it's destabilizing for the countries involved. Why it's destabilizing for us, I genuinely do not know.
Challenges the existing order. But it was the West's reaction to the Russian invasion that seemed ominous. Policymakers in the U.S. went insane. Joe Biden, helped by his Republican allies in the Senate, appeared to be determined not simply to topple the Russian government in some kind of regime change war, but to blow up the post-war economic order that had served the U.S. so generously for so long. So we thought at the time that the real threat to our future wasn't just the billions we were sending to Zelensky. That was reckless, but probably not going to end America. The real threat was the unprecedented economic sanctions that Joe Biden was allowed to, in fact, encouraged to impose.
What's crazy, though, is the ruble is stronger now than it ever has been, and our dollar is not.
Those sanctions, you'll recall, were supposed to hurt Russia. But even in March of last year, it seemed obvious they were going to hurt the United States much more than they hurt Russia. Here's what we said 13 months ago.
And that's not even including the fact that Russian oil is selling for like $60 a barrel.
We should prepare to lose our position as holder of the world's reserve currency. That is happening in slow motion. It's unmistakable. Now, the Biden people seem to have no idea this is going on, or maybe they want it to happen. Joe Biden was up there at the State of the Union bragging about how he took 30 points off the Russian ruble in a single day. Hooray, good for us. But once we stop celebrating our win, the destruction of the Russian economy, they deserve it. You got to wonder, is there a downside to this? Could it be a Pyrrhic victory? Let's see. These policies have driven Russia, China, India, Turkey, and other countries to accelerate their flight from the US dollar. Now, to be clear, that's the majority of the global economy. This may be the most reckless and destructive thing any American president has ever done to the United States. So that was last year.
And that's at the least. At least.
And at the time, it was really just yelling into the wind. Those views were considered absurd, even treasonous. Biden and his Republican allies described sanctions against Russia as morally essential. So we seized oligarchs.
Morally essential for what? For whom? To what end?
Yachts at anchor. We closed the Apple store in Moscow.
Ham and beans is correct.
We were all assured these were important victories, and anyone who asked questions about their long-term economic consequences was a Putin stooge. That was the consensus in Washington last spring, in case you've forgotten what it sounded like.
The purpose of the sanctions has always been and continues to be.
Oh my God, take the mask off, you fucking loser.
Deterrence. But let's also recognize the unique nature of the sanctions that we have outlined. These are some of the greatest sanctions, if not the strongest, that we've ever issued.
The president believes that sanctions are intended to deter.
As to the sanctions, the most important thing we can do is to use them as a deterrent, as a means of dissuading.
And why did you immediately pull them out and say we are using these right now? It's not much of a deterrent if you do it right away.
Russia from engaging in further aggression.
We are right now enforcing powerful economic sanctions. We're cutting off Russia's largest banks in the international financial system, preventing Russia's central bank from defending the Russian ruble.
God, he really is brain dead, guys. We're over 20% to yeeting this president. I think we can do it.
Monica ha, harmonica.
love it so much. What is this? It's snowbirds finally leaving because it hit 100 here in Arizona. Na 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 na. Hey hey hey. Goodbye. Adorable. I do like that one. It's Dog of Wisdom 2. It's the Dog of Wisdom 2. Almost as good as the other new one. Almost as good as the 90. Thank you, Valine. Much appreciated.
Making Putin's $630 billion war fund worthless.
These people are such buffoons. And all the Republican senators nodding in agreement. You watch that and you wonder if they really believe what they were telling you. If they really did believe that, they're stupider than they look. These sanctions were never going to work in the way they promised because...
Oh, it hit like 80 here today.
Unlike the United States, Russia does not have a late-stage finance economy. Russian oligarchs do not get rich from credit default swaps. They get rich from selling actual things that people need in order to live. Oil, natural gas, iron, fertilizer, coal, wheat. By some measures, Russia has the largest resource economy in the world. Oh.
And we're not allowed to buy anything from them. It's weird.
Oh, okay. So they could barter if they needed to. So a year later, despite the sanctions you were told are the greatest ever devised, the Russian ruble is just as strong against the US dollar as it was before the war in Ukraine. So we didn't really hurt Russia with those sanctions, certainly not long term. Who'd we hurt? Ourselves. E.J. Antoni and Peter St. Onge wrote an incisive piece in the Daily Caller last week that explains part of why this happened. Quote, a critical feature of a reserve currency is its apolitical nature, which Biden is now gutting. After both parties in Washington destroyed the dollar's stability with inflation, now the Biden administration has chosen to wield the dollar as a weapon. Together, these two factors send a message to foreigners, which is they should get out while they still can. In response to Russia's war with Ukraine, the U.S. froze the dollar reserves of Russia's central bank. To be clear, these were not American assets. These were dollars owned by the Russian central bank and the Russian people. The seizure was intended to cause bank runs and collapse Russia's credit system.
And how did that work out, huh? Not well. Why do we have people who aren't economically savvy in charge of the economy? I don't know shit from shit in economics, but I could do better than this. It looks like Valine and Jay have given a couple little sturdy shin kicks to Donkey.
Didn't work. Instead, it exposed the Biden administration's willingness to violate the trillions of dollars that foreigners rightfully own. The danger of this precedent is difficult to overstate, end quote. Now, all of us saw that happening, but you couldn't say anything because Russia, bad. We can't even watch their hockey teams. All right. But what do you think happened next as we were jumping up and down and talking about Winston Churchill? Well, smart foreigners, and there are some, believe it or not, started to dump the U.S. dollar. Why? Because the U.S. dollar was no longer a
nepotism. Sin, the answer is nepotism. It almost always is.
Reliable store of value. Suddenly, it was a political weapon that could be wielded at will against anyone who held it. So what if you had a border dispute with one of your neighbors that the State Department hadn't authorized? Or what if you accidentally criticized transgender theology and irritated the Human Rights Campaign? Well, the U.S. government might denounce you as immoral and then confiscate all your money. Because they just did that with Russia. And as a result, dollars began to look much less appealing to the rest of the world. And so de-dollarization began. And it has accelerated at remarkable speed, almost without comment in the American media, over the last year. So Russia announced it will conduct business in Asia, Africa, and Latin America in Chinese currency. Brazil, which has a brand new government supported by the Biden administration, announced it will do the same thing. Brazil, largest economy in the hemisphere after ours. Pakistan is doing the same thing. That's a longtime U.S. ally. India and Malaysia, two of the biggest economies in the world, announced they'll be settling their trade in their own currencies, not the dollar.
Oh, boy.
Even France, which we liberated, is using Chinese currency in a new liquefied natural gas trade. China and Saudi Arabia are now major business partners. And again, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is happening around the world, and all of it is shutting out the U.S. dollar.
And that is the point. They don't want to work with Biden. They don't want to be part of the dollar that is devaluing.
And it's happening a lot faster than anybody could have predicted. And yet no one in Washington seems aware that it is happening. So if you wanted the rest of the world to trust your currency, the last thing you would do is use it as a weapon or print too much of it. Printing too much of your currency causes inflation, and that saps the value of the currency. No one wants to hold a currency that is worth less consistently every year. That's sixth grade economics, but Joe Biden can't be bothered with that. So he's printing more money. Here he is last week announcing another $10 billion check. Not for you or East Palestine or anyone in our country who needs it, but for foreign governments.
Working in close cooperation with the United States Congress, we plan to add another $690 million for new funding for the presidential initiative over the next 2 years.
That doesn't even sound like Biden. Could you eat this brain dead fuck?
And over the course of 3 years, my administration intends to work with Congress to commit $9.5 billion across all our efforts to advance democracy around the world. We're all safe.
We're not even a democracy.
For when that occurs.
We've been asking for months for any Republican senator who supports this, whether it's Tom Tillis or John Cornyn of Texas, to come on the show and calmly explain why you support this. None of them have accepted our invitation. But at this point, you
I wonder why.
begin to wonder, what does the United States have that will retain its value over time? We should do an inventory of our assets. So Biden, as you just saw, is continuing to send the contents of our treasury, our dollars, to corrupt oligarchs in Eastern Europe and around the world. And yet at the very same time, and you should pay attention to this, he's selling off America's most valuable hard asset. That's our strategic petroleum reserve. Because unlike the US dollar, oil, which is in the reserve, has inherent value. Oil is the densest store of transportable energy known to man. So unlike fiat currencies like the dollar, oil will always have value. That's why Russia is not now impoverished, because they have a lot of oil. But we have less, because the SPR has been drained. In the last fiscal year, the Biden administration sold off 218 million barrels of oil, including bewilderingly, criminally, to the government of China. How much oil is that? It's more oil sold from the SPR in 1 year than in all previous years combined. So what happens when we empty it? Well, there's not much left. What about?
Because it's already done.
Our gold? America's gold reserves have not been fully audited in generations. So they can say whatever they want, but the truth is we don't really know how much gold is in Fort Knox. So the SPR becomes even more vital, and now it's disappearing. And as it does, the power of the United States ebbs. At some point, what's going to be left? They'll be draining the Great Lakes.
Is this not an act of treason? No, because it's a Democrat doing it, and it's good then.
And shipping the water to the Gobi Desert for cotton farming. They'll be selling the curtains. So how do you fix this? Well, ending the war in Ukraine immediately would help, which we could do, because we're in charge of NATO, but we're not even trying. In fact, we're pushing even harder for a direct conflict with nuclear-armed Russia. And politicians in Washington remain mired in their weird boomer World War II fantasies where they're all Winston Churchill and Zelensky's the head of the French resistance. We could give a million examples, but we can't resist, once again, the leader of the Republicans in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, last month.
I'm going to try to help explain to the American people that defeating the Russians in Ukraine is the single most important event going on in the world right now.
Why?
Defeating the Russians.
Why? Can you tell us why? Can you give us a reason? Why is it the single most important event?
In Ukraine is not the single most important event in the world from the perspective of the United States. It's not even number 15 on the list. It's way below ending the importation of fentanyl into this country, and it's way, way below preserving the strength of the U.S. dollar. But if Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden and the rest of these reckless leaders have their way, an increasing number of countries will do what so many have already done, which is begin to reject the U.S. dollar. And what will happen then? Well, all those dollars will come home. And the value of our currency will plummet even further. And that will lead to poverty across the United States. And that will lead to the typical political and cultural volatility that inevitably follows economic collapse. Disaster. And we've seen it
because that's what they're looking for.
Before. Of course, you know the famous pictures from Germany in the early 20s. Banknotes and wheelbarrows. When I buy a cup of coffee, that'll be 30 pounds of currency. Kids playing with worthless stacks of Deutschmarks. That was called Weimar, the Weimar Republic. And that government collapsed because of hyperinflation. And then economic collapse led to communist revolutions across Germany and ultimately to, fill in the blank, the Nazi regime. That's well known. In fact, it's a cliche at this point. But here's the thing that nobody seems to remember. What brought on the economic collapse that set the world on fire? Does anyone remember?
Of Fostonia for the Awoo. And the reload. Awoo train, all aboard. All right, Fostonia's throwing it down for an Awoo train. Where's my clicker? That is number 1 on the train.
Remember that? Why did the German government blow up its own currency? Well, simple. The German government took on too much debt in order to pay for a pointless war. Yes, a pointless war did that.
I have to come up with a little train graphic.
And if that sounds familiar, it's because exactly what we have done repeatedly for decades. We did it in Vietnam. We did it in Iraq. We did it in Afghanistan. And every time we got away with it because uniquely we held the world's reserve currency. But this time could be very, very different. A war against Russia will be the last war we can afford to fight. Subscribe.
And that's important, and don't forget it.
So it looked pretty crazy in New York yesterday. And of course, looking crazy was the whole point of this, to terrify swing voters into never voting for Donald Trump. What was it like? Well, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia was there for the arraignment. And before she arrived, the mayor of the city already failed just a year into office.
You need a train breakdown. I have a bunch of train breakdownos, and they're all for you to use, Sam. I need a little graphic on the screen.
Eric Adams described her as a criminal and implied he would punish her if she misbehaved. Meanwhile, actual lunatics showed up and prevented her from speaking. Watch.
Sir, can I ask what those are for?
So we hear that Marjorie Taylor Greene is coming to the city right here. So we brought some whistles to hand out to people to drown her out with some noise.
Really? Did you feel cool about that, huh? Did that make you feel cool? Did that make you feel like a real important man by doing that? Did it?
That's a sitting member, an elected member of the Congress. Everyone can see where this is going. Marjorie Taylor Greene joins us tonight to recount what she saw in New York yesterday. Congresswoman, thanks so much for coming on. What was that like?
Well, it was absolute chaos, and that's what the mayor of New York City wanted to happen to me. You see, he threatened me and basically put out a dog whistle for violence against me. And
there you go. It's not much, but it's a little train gift to let you know that there is a train going on.
And then there was a funded text alert that went out naming me by name and telling people to do exactly what that man was doing, hand out whistles and try to create a chaotic scene of violence and assault. And that's against the law, by the way, Tucker. You see, they didn't want me to be able to protest and use my First Amendment rights. And they wanted violence. I think they wanted that to happen because they want to repeat January 6th all over again. They want all of us Trump supporters, MAGA, basically Republicans.
Oh, they are begging Republicans to do another January 6th. Thankfully, nobody's been dumb enough to do it yet, but they are begging for it.
And just good Americans to look like criminals. And that's what they do in communist countries. And that's actually what we're seeing today.
Well, the first thing to do, of course, is take away your freedom to speak. And if you can't say what you really think, then you're not a free person, you're a slave. And once you are, then there's really nothing they can't do to you. Do you think people understand the implications of not allowing someone to speak?
I don't think they do. I don't think people realize what dangerous times we're living in. You see, the Democrat Party, they're the fascists. They want to cancel our voices. They want to censor us, and they want to completely force us into complying. You see, the reason why they're prosecuting, or should we say persecuting, Donald Trump is for the crime of actually winning the 2016 presidential election. That's what they're in hysterics over, and they've never gotten over it. But what they really want to do is, once they remove their top political opponent, which is President Trump, they're going to come after all of us. This has happened repeatedly throughout history, and people need to wake up to the reality of the danger we're living in.
Really quick, since you were just there, but Mayor Adams described New York as, quote, his home. How did his home look? Pretty neat and tidy?
No, his home is disgusting. I compared it to what I called Gotham City. The streets are filthy. They're covered with people basically dying on drugs. They can't even stand up. They're falling over. There's so much crime in the city. I can't comprehend how people live there. It was repulsive. It smells bad. And I think it's a terrible place.
It sounds like New York.
Yeah, with some nice people. I will say that. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, just back from New York. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tucker.
Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube.
That sounds like New York.
Poor Chicago, really one of the great cities in the world, living under Lori Lightfoot and suffering. She got bounced out in the primary, and then last night, tragically, voters in that city elected a guy who's even worse. The new mayor will be called Brandon Johnson.
There you go. Now we have an official Awoo train counter on the screen.
He's an open racist who believes in defunding the police, even though crime is up more than 60% this year. We're not overstating it. Here he is today.
If we are just simply looking at putting more money into policing, that has
wham or scram on MTG. That's a scram for me.
Demonstrated to be a strategy that is certainly short-sighted.
I don't want to be strong like men who look pretty. I want to be strong like bitch that fight bears in the forest.
Okay, that's fine. I couldn't type an entry while you were discussing oil. I got the same U.S. production info that also ties to some other government fuckery that I'm going to send you to have, so you have time to ask any questions. Okay, I will take a look. Thank you very much. Are you keeping the counter for the Sunday show? I will set it on a I'm not on the same computer I use for the Sunday show, but I will set it on a, where's my hard drive? Remind me a couple hours, ham and beans, and I will set it up for that.
That we have put forth is something that the city of Chicago overwhelmingly embraced. And again, it's a testament to what can happen around the country.
That's just embarrassing. Can't even speak a
Thank you, Valine.
grammatical sentence, and he's all in on defunding the police as like productive people of all races are fleeing the city as they're boarding up the loop. This is insane. That guy's now the mayor of Chicago. Very sad. Someone should think about how that happened, by the way, and also think about what happened in Wisconsin. That state has just fallen under Democratic Party control of the Supreme Court. The Soros-funded candidate won. And that means, among other things, that voter ID laws will be struck down before the next election in a swing state. Okay, Francie Hakes is a former state and federal prosecutor. She joins us tonight for an extremely depressing segment. Francie Hakes, thanks so much for coming on. These seem like significant election results.
Well, I think they're really significant, Tucker. When you're talking about the mayor of Chicago saying that it's short-sighted to put more police on the street or put more funding into training and recruiting great police officers who could actually solve crime. What is their murder clearance rate in Chicago right now? Something like 20%. That means something like 80% of murders in Chicago, which are way up, go unsolved. How is that helping the citizens of Chicago? I have no idea what he is thinking. I don't know what they're thinking. All I can say is that the voters of Chicago have apparently have known was a police defunder and therefore is going to do nothing to make that city safe. And I think that the crime is only going to go up.
Yeah, and the guy spent the last couple of days of the campaign attacking whites, like this open racist stuff. And no one ever says anything about that. How is that allowed in America? How can you openly, baldly attack an entire racial group in a political campaign and no one even notices?
Well, Of course, we're supposed to have free speech in this country, Tucker, but as you just heard from Marjorie Taylor Greene, it really only seems to go one way. He's allowed to say whatever he wants, but it used to be that if you said something that crazy and that racist, you certainly couldn't get elected dog catcher, much less mayor of Chicago. But
of course, why are we getting Fs? Stream's running on my end. Test. Stream's running on my end. Yeah, we're good over here.
here's where we are. He's mayor of Chicago.
Yeah, politicians should never attack any group on the basis of their race. That's just totally immoral. I thought that was the lesson of the civil rights movement. But apparently it works. That's the worst part. That's the scariest part. Francie Hakes, I appreciate your coming on tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker.
So you just can't overstate how great San Francisco is fundamentally. It's just beautiful. And unlike so many cities around the country, which lost their manufacturing base, San Francisco never had one. And instead, it got like $1 trillion in tech money. So you'd think it would be the greatest city in the world, but it's become one of the worst. Someone should figure out how that happened. The whole city. The Rincon neighborhood in San Francisco, one of the richest neighborhoods in the country. Google has a building, but it's becoming a slum. On Tuesday morning, the founder of the payments program Cash App, Bob Lee, was stabbed to death, apparently on the street.
Weird. After all the anti-bail stuff he said, he got stabbed? Crazy.
We still don't know who did it. This kind of thing happens, not always to tech executives, of course, but it happens to normal people all the time. You might remember this video from July, shot by a man called Richie Wynn. It shows what children in San Francisco have to walk past on their way to school.
Hey, bye, kids. Y'all get home safe, okay? Come on, man.
Well, you don't want to live in a big city, you racist, he says as he slips and fucking cracks his head on homeless heroin juice.
These little kids got to walk through this crazy.
Ricky Wynn is the man who shot that video and has been trying his level best to get people to pay attention to what's happening to his city. He's in San Francisco tonight. He joins us. Ricky, thank you for coming on and for all the noise that you've...
Oh, shit, you were in a car accident just now? The guy, what the fuck happened?
...made about what's going on around you. People seem to be ignoring it. Do you think this murder will wake people up?
I sure hope so. And I just want to send my condolences to the victim's family. You know, it's a horrible tragedy. But I also want to ask the mayor, London Breed, and the governor, Gavin Newsom, how much more anarchy are you going to allow before you put your political pride to the side and take a better look at some of these laws and implementations that you've put in place and retract some of them because they're just not working? Californians are tired of being subjected to your social experiments, like defunding the police, like trying to legalize illegal drug use with these safe consumption sites and giving out paraphernalia on the streets. I mean, the word travels fast, and within the criminal community and people that are using, and they're flocking here in what I like to call druggy tourism. Now, I don't know the facts of the...
We should just put up a giant fence around cities.
...case of what happened last night, but... you know, it just goes to say that when you turn felonies into misdemeanors, people are going to keep putting...
You don't reduce the amount of felonies. You just make them less bad on paper. You're not reducing anything.
Pushing that limit on what they can get away with in the city of San Francisco or in any of these Democratic controlled places. They're just going to keep continuously to push the envelope on what they can get away with. So it's really disheartening to see, and I'm really broken up about my city being in the shambles that it's in right now because this situation with this individual dying is just going to make the situation just that much more worse. You have to imagine, Tucker, like you said, all the money that the tech executives and the tech industry had put into San Francisco. Who's going to want to come and do a startup in San Francisco now when executives and innovators are getting killed and stabbed in the streets? I mean, it's just, it's going to further isolate San Francisco and make people leave. And it's really sad to see.
And people are leaving. So you shot that famous video last summer that was, I think, very shocking for people who aren't familiar with the current state of San Francisco. What did local officials say about that video?
It's been total crickets, Tucker. I mean, nothing. They haven't said anything. None of them will respond to me. I tried to run for a...
Of course they're not going to respond, because this is exactly what they want. They think that if they just let people do this in their cities, they'll get more voters, because that's all it's about. That's all it's ever about, is more voters. And they think people will just be okay with it. And then they get all surprised Pikachu when they're not.
A seat in the city council for like re-entry councils to like try to, you know, form or at least give my opinion on some of the things that could help rehabilitate some of the people that are struggling with addiction and some of the people that are coming out of incarceration. And I was met with fierce.
Airbag didn't deploy, so no facial. Jeez, man, I hope you're okay. Dude tried to pop a U-turn, didn't see me. I got lucky that he was able to slow down from 60 to 20 before getting, as he turned, he admitted fault, but I'm still out of a car. Is insurance going to take care of you?
Prejudice. And I mean, they called in and just made up total lies about me and got me ran out of City Hall. So this is my only outlet is my phone.
Yeah. Well, I think history will put you in the hero column. So, Ricky Wynn, thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tucker.
Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch.
I think anybody driving more attention to that is a good thing.
Breaking in the last few minutes, our own Peter Doocy pressing the White House on this summary of an Afghanistan report that was put out just before the briefing happened, causing consternation among the reporters there. By and large, the Biden administration seeks to blame the Trump administration for the situation in Afghanistan, and then also says none of the intelligence agencies foresaw that the country would fall as quickly as it did, prompting our Peter Doocy to ask this of John Kirby. Listen in.
John, who's going to get fired over this?
Peter, the purpose of the document that we're putting out today is to...
Peter Doocy is... This dude is good.
Sort of collate the chief reviews and findings of the agencies that did after-action reviews. It's not... The purpose of it is not accountability. It's the purpose of it is
military leaders.
Purpose of it is to study, lesson learn.
You admit that the intel was bad. So how can President Biden ever trust when they come into the Oval Office with the PDB?
Yes, he did, ham and beans. I remember you calling it out too.
That anything in there is legit.
What I said was
that intelligence is a mosaic. What if the mosaic, all the pieces are incorrect?
What I said was intelligence is hard business, and they get it right a lot too. There were some pieces here that weren't accurate, and we're being nothing but honest with you and the American people about what those inaccuracies were and how they shaped some of the decision making that was laid before the president and the questions that he asked. This document and this effort isn't about accountability today. It's about understanding. And I would also add that as I said to Ed, the review process isn't over. This is the next muscle movement in what will be a long process to better understand and comprehend and adjust to what we learned and what we did in Afghanistan.
But it doesn't seem like after the country has had a couple months to review this, and as the government has, people don't have an issue with the decision to order troops out of Afghanistan. It is with the way that this president ordered it done. There were children being killed. There were people hanging off of Air Force jets that were leaving.
We all know Biden did it literally just to have the headline. That's it. He didn't actually do it to have it done. He did it so he could have the headline and say that he got people out of Afghanistan. It's literally the worst thing he could have done.
And you're saying that you guys are proud of the way that this mission was conducted?
Doesn't mean
of that?
Proud of the fact that we got more than 124,000 people safely out of Afghanistan? You bet. Proud of the fact...
Just the tacit admittance that there was 140,000 people in Afghanistan. All for spite. Literally all for spite. Kirby gives me the creeps. The way he talks reminds me of Bush Jr. He is Bush Jr. tier for sure.
That American troops were able to seize control of a defunct airport and get it operational.
Thank you, Kara Soldier.
In 48 hours? You bet. Proud of the fact that we now have about 100,000 Afghans, our former allies and partners, living in this country and working towards citizenship? You bet. Now, does that mean that everything went perfect in that evacuation? Of course not. I've talked about it from a different podium. The after-action reviews are now being reviewed by members of Congress, which will lay out things that could have gone better. Nobody's saying that everything was perfect. But there was a lot that went right, and a lot of Afghans are now living better lives in this country and other countries around the world because of the sacrifices and the work of so many American government officials. So yeah, there's a lot to be proud of, Peter.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
Fuck off, Hannity.
It was the breaking. Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. Tonight on Tuesday.
He's full of shit. He is full of something. That's something.
2 days ago, Twitter slapped a warning label on all tweets from National Public Radio. Going forward, NPR will be identified for users of Elon Musk's social media site as, quote, state-affiliated media. That is the same category as Russia Today or China Central Television. It means that NPR is not that different from the Tehran Times, with the exception, of course, being less accurate and more anti-American. So that happened on Tuesday. Why are we telling you about it? With all the momentous changes underway around the world, why would we open a show with a story about Twitter recategorizing NPR as state media? Well, because it's true. That's the reason. Finally,
it is literally funded by the state.
Thankfully, somebody in authority has told the truth about something, and that is thrilling to see on its own terms. In a world defined by lies from our leaders, this seemed like a rare sign of hope and progress.
We are scratching the surface of 40% to this goal. So if you guys want to smash that like button, share it out, and consider hitting up the Streamlabs, it is greatly, greatly appreciated. And gotta yeet brain dead Biden. Everything we're talking about here is his fault. We all know that. So it's best to just get rid of the fucking, throw the whole baby away.
Telling the truth is the most revolutionary act of all, far more than taking up arms.
And you can get us to 60% with that brand new John Wick, the big Wick energy.
And yet you rarely see it. Human beings created language in order to describe the world around them more precisely than they could with, say, grunting or sign language. But unfortunately, we have been subverting our own creation ever since. But not tonight. By calling National Public Radio what it is, Elon Musk has used English as it was intended to be used in order to tell the truth. Of course, NPR is state media. Have you listened to it? It has all the hallmarks: repetitive dishonesty, authoritarian politics, unwavering devotion to the party in charge. Of course, that could describe virtually all media in this country. The difference is the state.
Those of you who have seen it, I'm curious, what did you think of the big Wick energy?
State actually pays for NPR. NPR was created more than 50 years ago by a law signed by Democrat Lyndon Johnson. It was called the Public Broadcasting Act. And from its very first day, NPR was wholly dependent on tax dollars in order to exist. And it still is.
But they don't want to be state affiliated, labeled on Twitter. They don't want it.
Federal funding is essential to NPR, explains NPR's own website. So there's no factual debate about that fact, but there is a great deal of lying about it. Every year, NPR lobbyists head to Capitol Hill to demand more tax dollars. Democracy can't.
I love it. I christened it. It was great. Nice. Needs more guns.
Exist without us, they screech, while simultaneously at the very same time telling you at high volume that NPR takes virtually no tax money. So we don't need federal subsidies, don't even
Today
want
we're
them.
counting down our picks for the top 10 most infamous man-made disasters. Number 1.
The 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the one that guaranteed women the right to vote, was ratified in 1920.
National Panhandler Radio has been state media the entire time. Glad Twitter finally called it out. It is about time. It is about time. Thank you, Matt Barnes.
Really, but you have to increase them. That is NPR's line, and has been for decades under the political leadership of both parties. And it's essentially unchallenged by anyone. It just stays. Wars and recessions come and go, but NPR funding remains. But after more than half a century, it is very clear that there is nothing public about National Public Radio. NPR is the radio station of permanent Washington. That's who pays for it. That's who benefits from it. By adding 3 simple words to NPR's tweets, Elon Musk exposed that forever to the world. Such is the power of truth. It exposes, and of course, it infuriates those who are exposed. So NPR howled in outrage, but with its signature pursed-lipped fussiness. Here's a direct quote from a piece on NPR's website, which really does belong in the Museum of Uptight Liberalism. Quote, NPR officials have asked Twitter to remove the label. They initially assumed it was applied by mistake, NPR spokesperson Isabel Larry.
Why would National Public Radio, that gets its funding from tax dollars, be mistakenly...
Be quiet!
Okay.
Be quiet!
Biden isn't the source. He is the skin suit for the source. To be the source, he'd have to be a genius of the policies and not shut up, not just a dribble piss that lets the world... Okay, we get it. You drive a motorcycle. Not just the dribble piss that lets the world's inarticulation tumble from his lips as he savages the language. I mean, it is impressive. You've got to admit it is impressive. Oh, we're right at 40%.
Said,
Thank you, Sanguine.
It happened quite suddenly last night, Laura said. In response to an NPR email for the story seeking comment and requesting details about what in particular might have led to the new designation, Twitter's press account auto-replied with a poop emoji.
Hold on.
Twitter's press account auto-replied with a particular might have led to your email for the story seeking comment and requesting details about what in particular might have led to the new designation. Twitter's press account auto-replied with a poop emoji.
That is perfection. That is just perfection.
Well, it's just so perfect you couldn't improve it. Hey, Twitter, stop calling us what we are. Okay, NPR, here's a scat cartoon. So you can forget the rockets and the electric cars. Elon Musk is a hero for this alone. But NPR wasn't finished. It still had fight. National Public Radio was so angry, so enraged to be called state media, that its supporters enlisted the
This portion of NPR has been brought to you by tax dollars like yours. Thank you, Matt Barnes.
help of the regime's top spokeswoman to claim otherwise. Stop calling it propaganda, said the propagandist. Again, it's an irony-free zone and just too great. Watch this.
There's no doubt of the independence of NPR's journalists, and it has been. If you've ever been on the receiving end of their questions, you know this. You know that they have their independence in journalism. NPR journalists work diligently to hold public officials accountable and inform the American people.
Does anybody believe this? 7667 is shit. What? I don't think I have anything for poop. Do I? Hold on. 7007. I don't think I do. Let's find out. No, I do not.
The hard-hitting independence nature of their coverage speaks.
But the 7667 is about to get changed. That's so much funnier. Wait, why is that not that? Yeah, no. All right, there it is. Saved 7007. 7667 is now changed.
For itself, and so I'll leave it there.
That is so Baghdad Bob. It's unbelievable. Here she is reading a press release for NPR that tells us they're famous for hard-hitting independence, which speaks for itself. Really? How many tough questions have they asked you, Karine Jean-Pierre? Not a single one. They're fluffing her every day. She's so smart. And so she pays them back. Hard-hitting independence. This is the same radio station that in the final days of the last presidential...
That's fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi. We're looking at sea otters.
It is officially changed. 7667 is now 7007 for poo. Matt Barnes, it's not saying much in 2023, but she sure got some balls. I know, right?
Campaign took a look at the biggest political story in years, the New York Post story on Hunter Biden's laptop, and then ignored it completely. And not only ignored it completely, but because they are fussy and self-righteous to their very core, they bragged about how they were ignoring it completely. We don't want to waste our time on stories that are not really stories, said NPR's managing editor, Terrence Samuel.
Yeah, you don't want to post anything that might not be a real story.
And we don't want to waste listeners and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions. Right. 2 weeks before our presidential campaign, we find out that the Democratic candidate has been taking money from a foreign adversary, but that's just a distraction. So whatever happened to Terrence Samuel? What did he get in return for helping Joe Biden become president at the state-affiliated media network he serves? Well, Terrence Samuel has since been promoted to NPR's executive editor, but he still has time to spare because it's not that hard to put Morning's Edition on the air. So you know what he does in his spare time? Terrence Samuel hosts seminars on, we're quoting, disinformation and democracy. It's something called American University. And no, we're not making any of this up. Nor are we fabricating NPR's report from just last month that informed us male athletes have no inherent performance advantages over female athletes. None at all. That is a fact, ladies and gentlemen. Men and women are physically the same size. They have the same muscle mass. There is no difference whatsoever in their bone structure. We checked with experts. So, as you know, NPR is famous for its widely respected science coverage. But that's not the only reason that NPR is now the go-to news source for unhappy female attorneys over 50.
Why? Oh, we're over the 40%. Nice.
No, there's more to it than that. They're the lifestyle pieces, the features, as they used to say in the newspaper business. Here's a piece, for example, on how one African-American Barbie doll, ahead of its time in the toy industry, changed the life of a Latinx girl forever.
I remember this one Christmas.
Always with the lisps.
My cousin's father gifted us all Barbies. And when everyone was unwrapping, you know, the excitement, el papel, the paper, and I opened up the Barbie and my Barbie was black, you know? And everyone kind of like looked at my Barbie and I looked at their Barbies and I could kind of like identify to their Barbies too. And I wasn't this kind of like as melanated as this Barbie. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am different.
Unhappy middle-aged ladies talking about themselves. The narcissism piped directly into your Audi. That's NPR. You got to say they know their audience. They don't only serve their audience, they put their audience on the air. So it's kind of a continuous loop, the snake eating its own tail. So you probably shouldn't be too surprised that with an audience like its desperately unhappy, barren personal life audience, that NPR is all in.
Yeah, ham and beans, I got to agree. That it just didn't happen. That did not happen. Bullshit. X'd it out.
On the question of romance novels. Watch.
I'm like really big in the sci-fi ones. One of the books was a gay couple and one of them was a Kraken. And I didn't want that to unlock something in me. Unfortunately, it did. Before I knew what was happening, Cyrus was carrying me, the muscular links of his tentacles supporting our combined weight, and shuffling us towards the stall without breaking our kiss. I knew he was strong, but I didn't think he was that strong. You like that, Roland?
Blah 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 blah.
Sideshow Mel for 25-24. Blah blah blah. Blah blah blah. Blah, 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 blah. Thank you very much, Sideshow Mel.
As his tentacles slam the door to the shower stall open.
Again, with the lisps.
He stumbled inside.
It's Carlos Maza, of course.
Well, so it's tentacle porn. Okay, yeah, I mean, technically it is tentacle porn, which is its own subgenre, and we're not...
Which is a 1945 right here.
Gonna pollute your mind by telling you any more about it than that. But what it really is narcissism. Because here you have an upper-income Oberlin graduate talking about, what would he be talking about? Well, himself, of course, because that's what NPR listeners want to hear about themselves. And that's the real journalism, the hard-hitting independent journalism Karine Jean-Pierre was touting from the White
Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah.
White House briefing room. And NPR didn't just start doing it after they got Joe Biden elected. They've been doing it for generations. Their health coverage in particular stands out. Any news organization can run a piece on how to be more healthy, but only NPR dared to affirm the snack habits of its listeners by telling you, yeah, go ahead and be fat. Here's an anti-diet dietitian.
So
hardcore Japanese cartoon pornography, it exists. And it's every bit as creepy as it sounds.
Call to Crow for the 1945. No comment. None needed. Perfect. Thank you very much. Ooh, we're at halfway to goal. Goddamn.
Is this overarching system of beliefs and values that's really endemic to Western culture at this point in history?
Christy Harrison is an anti-diet registered dietitian with a master's in public health.
That's Amber Lynn's dietitian.
We've been trying to get Christy Harrison, the anti-diet dietitian, on our show for years now, but we're not NPR, so no luck so far. But if you're looking for coverage of LGBTQIA Z+ issues, well, you've come to the right place. Because it's not just the conventional stuff, gay marriage or trans issues. They've taken it to another level, as befits a cutting-edge, totally independent news channel like National Public Radio. Here they are reporting on trans dinosaur experts.
Many people who are queer,
We're looking at sea otters. 6 of them here. That's fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi. We're looking at sea otters.
Did you see the trailer for Margot Robbie Barbie movie? She is a real-life Barbie, and they're throwing adult humor into that. I'll beat you off. The line is in the trailer. That might be worth checking out then. Thank you, Valine. NPR should really NPR should be really spell out. Okay, no, that's just worded that way. Narcissistic pretend radio. I like National Panhandle Radio better, but thank you, Kara.
Or some other form of genderqueer or whatever it is. We love dinosaurs.
Along with being a dinosaur expert, Riley is...
Again, the lisps. Why? Oh, why the lisps?
...herself transgender. And according to Riley, there is a whole community of genderqueer dinosaur enthusiasts online. We had no idea.
People like fucking dinosaurs. How is this groundbreaking?
Yeah. So we checked it out. Sure enough, they're there. We found dozens of paleo artists online that identify as queer.
Type dinosaur into the LGBT subreddit, hundreds of results with pride dinos, rainbow
Pride dinos. Jesus.
dinos, dino moms, dino dads, and a lot of puns. Like Allysaurus.
Transceratops.
Transceratops is good, god damn it.
Transceratops. Transosaurus rex. Now, a lot of people say if the topic of NPR comes up in conversation, yeah, I'm all for National Public Radio and I'm happy to work an extra day a year to pay for it. But I'm not a trans dinosaur. I'm not. So what's in it for me as a non-trans dinosaur? That seems a little niche. And that's a common misperception about National Public Radio. As long as you're talking about yourself and doing so in a self-satisfied, completely out of touch way, NPR is the station for you. In other words, they're interested in all forms of diversity. Back in 2021, NPR discovered a trendy new television show. Why'd they like it? Well, here's why.
Well, Kumari, what TV show were you binging this year?
I was watching We Are Lady Parts.
What the hell is We Are Lady Parts? That is one on the train. Now I gotta go. Yeah, okay, 1. Ham and beans. The worst part about growing up is people stop asking what your favorite dinosaur is. Well, okay, ham and beans, tell me, what is your favorite dinosaur?
It's a musical comedy about a punk band in London that is made up of all Muslim women.
What are you watching? That's the hard-hitting news coverage that makes the difference between democracy and tyranny. What are you watching? Self-satisfied, fussy people with nose piercings talking about what they're watching inside their tiny little apartments in Brooklyn. Well, I'm watching a musical in all Muslim.
You will listen to the lisp until morale improves. It's not working.
Musical, a punk band. It's great. So that's NPR in 2023. And the truth is, NPR's always been kind of awful, kind of unbearable, kind of cringy, as they say. But now, you can't.
It's in Alkalisaur. Okay, copy. Now we're going to go paste. Oh, yeah, this guy. Open image in new tab. That's a cool dinosaur. That's a very cool dinosaur.
Can't even listen to it because the people who work there are deranged. They're ideologues. And ideologues, of course, in the end, go crazy and start attacking each other. The revolution inevitably eats its own. And we're seeing that.
My favorite dinosaur is a chicken. They're the tastiest.
On display now, and frankly, kind of enjoying it. So after NPR laid off 10% of its staff recently, one NPR show called Louder Than a Riot, Louder Than a Riot, they love riots.
The real answer is the Titansaurus or something like that. Oh, let me get you guys hip to the Titanosaurus. Look at this fucking thing. Look at that.
At NPR tweeted this, and we're quoting. The hardest part is that our SZN, if you're not Hungarian, you probably know what that means. We certainly don't. Our SZN is about misgenre queer trans black women face in hip hop. Yet within NPR, the majority impacted in these layoffs were queer POC staff and programs. In other words, racist!
I am just unfazed. I'm just unfazed by being called a racist anymore. It means nothing.
By the way, misgenre, in case you aren't up on your NPR speak, has something to do with bigotry against women who are black. Not that NPR bothers to define any of those terms. Anyway, it gets better. Because once you put crazy people in charge of your newsroom, well, crazy things happen. So they tried to call an all-hands meeting to explain why people were being fired. The real reason, of course, is no one wants to listen to this crap. But an NPR executive had to get out there and try to speak slowly and tell these people why they were fired. And people start screaming at him. So he called for civility. And then one employee said, "You need to read this."
Don't you know civility is worse? You gonna play?
Piece, quote, when civility is used as a cudgel against people of color. That's NPR, ladies and gentlemen, on the inside. NPR, by the way, we told you at the outset, is now officially state media. And honestly, that tells you a lot about the state. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly. A quick programming note, on Tuesday, we'll be heading down to the east coast of Florida to speak to Donald Trump, who currently the frontrunner in the Republican presidential race, was just, as you know, indicted this week. This will be Donald Trump's first interview since everything happened, his arraignment in New York. That'll air here, 8 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday night. Subscribe.
Oh, that will be tonight.
Vince Colonnese is a radio host in Washington, D.C., a very popular one, deservedly so, and he joins us tonight to assess NPR. Now, you live in Washington. You report on it on the radio. Was there ever a question in your mind that this was state media?
Not at all. Our mutual buddy Chris Plant calls them National Panhandler Radio, appropriately, NPR. And you know what's amazing about this? They're trying to prove...
Okay, who stole that?
that they're not state media, and they're relying on everyone who's funded by the state in order to make that defense.
Are we going to Twitch that next week, maybe?
So Karine Jean-Pierre stands there at the White House press briefing and says NPR is so independent. She gives a Braveheart-style speech attesting to their independence. Do you think she would ever do that for Simon Atiba? Like, not in a million years.
No.
Not in a million years. Of course, it's for NPR. NPR.
I'll check it out after the show, Valine.
Cited Yoel Roth, the former head of censorship at Twitter, as a guy who said they shouldn't be labeled state-affiliated media. Yoel Roth and Twitter at the time were making millions of dollars from the federal government to censor the American public. These are all completely biased people. And one last big thing that I noticed about this, Tucker, they say in all of their defenses, well, only 1% of our funding, less than 1%, comes from the federal government. Even that is deception. Even that is a lie. NPR is a content organization. The 1,000 member stations that they send content to all pay fees to NPR. Guess where they get their money from? That's right, the federal, state, and local governments. As much as 23% of all of their funding comes from there. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, and here they are playing a shell game. And the only type of organization that plays that kind of deceptive shell game, not a news organization, one that is running a political operation on behalf of the government.
It's totally right. NPR is repulsive.
Little man, put that shit in my head. If that work, that's fine with me. Just derail that train. I did not steal it from this dude. He stole it from me. Thank you, Matt Barnes.
Not quite as repulsive as its listeners.
Oh, shit. We are almost 60% to goal, and we have like 9 minutes left.
Privileged people in the world demanding welfare from the rest of us. Vince Colonnese, who is on commercial radio, not working for the state. Appreciate seeing you tonight. Thank you. Good evening.
Commercial radio? Doesn't that make him a bigot? This is a long one. We'll circle back to this.
But Riley Gaines will say that because she's not afraid. So last night, Gaines went to San Francisco State University to talk about her
Oh, this story. This story is fucking insane. Hopefully he goes over it.
Experiences in NCAA swimming. And Riley Gaines is not a hater. She is a measured, decent person who believes in logic and reason and finding common ground with people who disagree with her. She does not think she is God. But that fact does not believe she's God makes her a terrifying threat to the zealots who do believe they're God.
What
and
the
so
fuck?
At San Francisco State last night, the zealots attacked her. A mob surrounded Riley Gaines and prevented her from moving through the hallways. At one point, the thugs said they wouldn't
smash.
Let her pass and let she. During the chaos, a man dressed as a woman punched her several times. The mob howled with rage, screaming threats and obscenities.
I'm just saying, that'd be a perfect crowd to. There's too many. You could 10, 45, 90, or 110 your way through.
We're not overstating. Here's what it looked like.
Was this after a activist punched her in the head? What right do you have to a swim meet? Anybody?
I'm coming, I'm good. Trust me, I'm good. Go ahead.
I just explain it to me. What is a trans right? Because genuinely, I don't know. So if someone could just let me know what a trans right is, I'd appreciate it. None of these people will face punishment. A little bit of a spoiler alert for a article I have for Friday. They not only did not face punishment, but when the school was asked about this, the school praised them.
That's the most dangerous extremist group in the United States. There's no mistaking it. Riley Gaines, once again, is not an ideologue or a demagogue. She's not out to hurt anybody. She's a college swimmer who was cheated against and doesn't think that's fair. In the face of that, people threaten her life and scream transparent.
I'm just saying, there's not much better to do the violent donations to crowd something like that.
Apparently nonsensical things like trans women are women. Trans women are not women. Women are women and men are men. And that's unalterable. And if you think otherwise, you are delusional. And they are delusional and therefore dangerous. Last night, Riley Gaines was silenced and assaulted at San Francisco State. Her most basic civil rights were stolen by a violent mob. The thing we're supposed to be on the lookout for, well, there it is. If there is such a thing as a hate crime, you just saw it. And yet the administration and its thoroughly corrupt Department of Justice won't acknowledge that any of that happened because they endorse it happening. Riley Gaines is one of the bravest people we know, and we're grateful to have her join us tonight. Riley Gaines, thank you so much for coming on. Was that as horrifying as it looked?
I mean,
it probably was terrifying. You have a fucking crowd of people screaming to kill you. Yeah.
terrifying for me. The police did not inform me of any sort of action plan. Turning Point USA invited me to the campus. I delivered a very civil and respectful speech where I had great dialogue with even protesters who were participating in a sit-in. All of a sudden, after my speech, the room was stormed. The lights were turned off, and I was rushed with no one there to escort me to a safe place. I was punched, I was hit multiple times, I was shoved, until finally we exited the room. But we could not leave because the protesters flooded the halls, and so I was put.
And then said that they will not leave until they get paid. Kidnapping.
Pushed into a classroom along that hallway where I was barricaded in for 3 hours.
3 hours? Why didn't someone with a gun come and bring you to safety?
Because they were terrified. They were scared to put their hands on these people because they know what these people are capable of. These people yelled obscene, violent, vulgar things to both myself and the officers, I could tell, didn't feel comfortable putting them in a position that would mean they do their job. Which
Could you imagine what would happen if somebody with a gun did come and do this? Could you imagine the fucking outcry? Oh yeah, violence works, yeah.
is a really scary, chilling thought.
This is the most dangerous extremist movement in the United States right now. It's getting bigger, not smaller. It's gaining steam, not losing it. The White House has endorsed it. I mean, what does this mean for you? And I just can't say it again since I happen to know you. You are an inherently moderate person who means harm to no one. But are you worried about your safety going forward?
You know, I am worried about my safety. I have to be now. When we have people.
Why are they allowed to be violent, but nobody else is? Because you know exactly why. You know exactly why they're allowed to be violent, but nobody else is. They're doing it for the right cause. They're on the right side. They're Biden supporters. Well, you know it. I know it. Too far.
People who are willing to do this, and we know why they're willing to do this. It's because they don't have reason.
The message is force.
And that is correct. Thank you so much, Gamer Valine.
Why you pull me over? You were doing 90 to 30. Why? Because I'm in the hood. That's a good answer. I'll be speaking to this motherfucker too. But you got any guns in the car? No, sir, I ain't got no guns.
Or verbal violence. But what this means for me, this does not deter me. This assures me that I am doing the right thing. This will not silence me when they want me to be silenced. It just means I need to speak louder.
That's a good way of thinking about it, honestly.
Really quick, did anyone in the state of California in authority, any political figure, for example, defend you?
No, not the dean of students, not the campus police.
No, and then they actually condoned it. They said that the protesters were doing good.
I will say the city of San Francisco police that stepped in, they did a phenomenal job in escorting 3 hours later. But I will be...
So she was held hostage for 3 hours. Sue the fuck out of that school.
Pursuing legal action. I will ensure that the people who physically assaulted me, the people who put me in that position, they will face repercussions.
Yeah. I mean,
as you should.
If we can't identify that as evil, then we've really lost the thread. Riley Gaines, I'm glad you're still here. And
absolutely.
I saw a video of a couple putting the tag on their car, and the guy was like, "Why do I have to score it? No one's going to steal it." And she just looks up and said, "Baby, we in the hood." Nice.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So she should sue the fuck out of everybody within fucking a mile of that happening. She should sue the fucking pants off of everybody. Oof. Guys, we are chipping away at that goal. I think this might be our last video.
The pullout from Afghanistan under Joe Biden was one of the most humiliating foreign policy disasters in American history. It's hard to think of one more humiliating. 13 American servicemen killed, thousands of American citizens left behind. Many Afghans died, by the way. Some of them fell off airplanes. Others were blown up in drone strikes.
Yeah, but we're supposed to not talk about the fact that some of this stuff happened? Genuinely do not understand the rationale here. But I'm not supposed to understand it. I'm just a voter, taxpayer. It's not for me to understand. I'm just supposed to be quiet and do what I'm told.
For no obvious reason by the Biden administration. And maybe worst of all, we turned the Taliban into the best armed military force after Pakistan in the entire region. Joe Biden did that his first summer as...
And don't let him forget it. Guys, remember, eat brain dead Biden.
President. So what does the administration have to say about this? Well, in a new report, they take no responsibility whatsoever. Instead, they blame it on, somehow, Donald Trump. So today, Fox's Peter Doocy asked John Kirby, how does that make sense? Watch.
You admit that the intel was bad. So how can President Biden ever...
These people will never admit they were wrong. It's just not going to happen. They just won't do it. The day the Biden administration admits they were wrong on something major like this is just... I just don't see it.
Trust when they come into the
Cleveland Browns will win the Super Bowl before that happens.
With the PDB, that anything in there is legit.
What I said was
that intelligence is a...
Oh, happy early birthday, I say.
What if the mosaic, all the pieces are incorrect?
What I said was intelligence is hard business, and they get it right a lot too. There were some pieces here that weren't accurate. This document and this effort isn't about accountability today. This is the next muscle movement in what will be a long process to better understand and comprehend and adjust to what we learned and what we did in Afghanistan.
Trump had a plan. Yes, exactly, Roger Reynolds. Trump had a plan. He had the whole thing worked out, and it wasn't going to be easy. But instead of sticking to the Trump plan, either because it was Trump's plan or he just wanted it done now, Biden said, fuck that shit. Fuck all of that. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. And just pulled out, left everything there, didn't destroy the weapons caches, did nothing of the sort. And then got all surprise Pikachu face when shit went sideways almost immediately. Like, how can you even be remotely surprised when you leave that much shit in a country that they start using it? It's ridiculous.
Children being killed. There were people hanging off of Air Force jets that were leaving, and you're saying that you guys are proud of the way that this mission was conducted?
Doesn't mean
of that?
Proud of the fact that we got more than 124,000 people safely out of Afghanistan? You bet. Proud of the fact that we now have about 100,000 Afghans, our former allies and partners, living in this country. And
so not only did... I just don't believe it. I just simply don't believe him.
Working towards citizenship? You bet. Does that mean that everything went perfect in that evacuation? Of course not.
There's a far distance between perfect and worked.
Few things more degrading to the reputation, hard-earned reputation of the American Armed Services than having a shameless liar like that man, John Kirby, speaking on its behalf. Joe Kent carried a weapon in combat zones for most of his life. He's a retired Green Beret combat veteran, also a former candidate for Congress. He joins us tonight. Joe Kent, thank you so much for coming on. So what do you, as someone who spent a lot of his life in that region, what do you make of this explanation?
Well, first off, Tucker, all the Democrats and Joe Biden are trying to do right now is avoid accountability, shift it back to President Trump, and that's because House Republicans.
Because everything is Trump's fault. You know it, and I know it. Brain dead Biden will literally always blame Trump. And he won't even say his name. He's fucking Voldemort. Say, the former administration.
Republicans have finally started putting some pressure on the Biden administration, demanding for accountability. So that's the knee-jerk reaction. But this is a complete and total disgrace.
Again, it's something that's never going to happen. Never going to happen.
Look, I would have a lot more respect for the Biden administration if they went after the military-industrial complex and the intelligence community for their lies. This all goes back to when President Trump attempted to get us out of Afghanistan.
It was because it was Trump's plan, because they scrapped his plan, delayed the pullout, and did everything backwards.
He fought us to the negotiations table, and that's when the intelligence community and the military-industrial complex lied to the American people. They leaked it to the media that Putin had put bounties on the heads of American soldiers, the whole Russian bounty narrative, and then Congress, in a bipartisan fashion, moved to block Trump from spending money to get us out of Afghanistan in the summer-fall timeframe of 2020. We should have been out then. We had a plan. But then Biden came in and he couldn't do Trump's plan. He wanted to get our troops out on his timeline in September 11th of 2021.
But yeah, don't wait to actually do it properly. You just want that headline. Troops are turned home to 15 years after the whatever. Shut the fuck up.
The military-industrial complex continued to lie, this time to Joe Biden. You kept hearing those rosy assessments of how the Afghan military was going to hold the ground and they were going to stand and fight for months on end. They lied, and Americans died as a result.
But they will never be held to account.
One must be held accountable.
Yeah. So you know what happened. You personally, Joe Kent, know what happened and almost uniquely are brave enough to tell the truth about it. And this is why they prevented you from winning that seat in Congress and one of the most rotten elections I've ever seen. And so I hope you'll be running again.
We are at a time where we can not only not question elections, we cannot question power. Questioning power is akin to being a Russian at this point. It's illegal to question power for reasons. Like, I genuinely don't understand what they expect people to do. You cannot sit around, tell people that they're not allowed to question you. If they do, they're going to get in trouble. They're not allowed to question elections because if they do, they're going to get in trouble. You can't, there is no proper way out of this. The Restrict Act is a cunt hair away from making just garden variety dissent illegal. Biden has to be one of the, if not the most authoritarian rulers we have had in this country for I don't know how long, and Republicans are just rolling over and taking it. What do you think people are going to do?
And continuing to tell the truth. Joe Kent, thank you.
Thank you, Tucker. I will.
Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch.
But that is it for us tonight, guys. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out. Thank you for an incredible show tonight. Donkey Punch, hats off to you, my friend. Guys, I will see you tomorrow, probably for the AAA meeting on Polydub's channel. Good night, everybody.